Hello,
Jessica.
everyone logging in. Hi.
Hi,
How's everyone
everyone.
doing?
So,
We'll just give everyone a moment or two to log in, and then we'll get started in 1 minute.
All caps for the local boys? Is
Yeah,
that
you
what-
want one?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Take it. Which one do you like? Do you like?
I don't know what I just did.
A couple people on mute.
We're not on the camera.
As we get started, I'm going to put everybody on mute, aside from myself and our two Flying Camel ladies. And then if you guys have questions or comments, we will have a Q&A time at the end of the webinar. But if you have questions throughout, feel free. You can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can type it into the chat and I will be monitoring that throughout the webinar. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We have a really exciting topic to discuss today that I think is going to be really kind of eye-opening for a lot of people. We're going to be discussing relations with our partners at Flying Camel. With us today, we have Leanne Wood. Leanne is the president of Flying Camel. She's waving. She started the Flying Camel PR firm 27 years ago. And she really has created kind of a niche specialization in the kitchen and bath industry. So all of their clients really are part of the kitchen and bath industry. They also are the PR firm for the NKBA and they manage KBIS. You guys may have seen Leanne running the next stage at KBIS each year. And then we also have Rachel Coakwell with us today. She is our wonderful account manager at Flying Camel. She's responsible for our social calendars, the social media support package that we provide to the dealers in our monthly newsletter. She's responsible for our newsletter, and she has extensive experience with managing influencer partnerships. So she often, with some of the other brands that they work with, are managing up to 30 different partnerships at a time. So each of them are going to kind of take a turn talking about two different main topics in terms of public relations. So I am going to pass it over to them. And you guys can teach us everything that you know.
Awesome. I think I'm up first. Thanks, Jess, and great to see everyone today. It's always interesting when at the start of a Zoom call when you let people in, like boom, 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 all these people. It's like, whoa, it builds the excitement. So thanks everyone for attending today. Today we're going to address two types of PR. As Jess said, I'm going to handle the media relations part of the discussion, and Rach is going to handle the influencer relations. And we really want to make the point that each areas of PR can have a big impact on your business. After today, we want to give you a roadmap on how to bring more awareness to your company. And you're probably sitting there going, okay, why should we do this? Is this something else that I'm going to add to my busy day? But our goal is to convince and show you the value of PR, and hopefully you'll make it an important part of your marketing mix. So we do have a lot of polls today. Just know that we're being sneaky and we're trying to pick your brain on a lot of things. So our first poll.
Oh, I wasn't ready for that. So that's my
Okay.
fault.
All right. Jess is the poll person here. So
yeah.
Yes. So we do want to know if you have a dedicated marketing team member, someone who perhaps handles your social media, someone who might handle your media relations. So if you can just weigh in there, So yes, you do, no, you don't, or you handle it, you're just everything all at once and you handle all the marketing materials and activities by yourself. So please take part in the poll because it gives us some good background on who is actually sitting in the audience so we can tailor that. So we'll just give you a minute to answer. One thing I didn't turn off was my text. There you go. I thought I was managing all of this.
It's always something.
I know, right? Okay,
So I'm going
let's-
to end the poll.
Let's jump into talking about, do we have the results of the poll?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
I'm going to share them there.
Okay, great. So 47% of you have a marketing person. Awesome. 16% don't, 37% handle it all by yourself. Okay, so we will definitely make sure that, and even in the Q&A, just let us know who you are and your questions in relation to this, but we'll try and tailor the that to this audience. So first of all, let's talk about getting media attention. We're going to give you 3 things to think about. We're going to keep it really basic. So the first thing is that it all starts with photography and the value of professional photography. So we're going to dive deep into each of these 3 areas, but just letting you know what we're going to be talking about. The other is doing your homework on local media or the media that you want to be published in. That's the second area. We're going to give you some hot tips on that. And then the third area we're going to talk about is never underestimating the power of design contests. And we will tell you why. So, okay, time for another poll. We do want to know how often you get your projects professionally photographed. Is it always? Is it sometimes? Is it just that, you know, you want to make sure that it's like the most fabulous project? Is that the only time you do it? Is it never? Or do you actually just take some photos yourself with your smartphone? So if you could give us an indication of that and how you handle photography within your firm, that would be great. Give you a minute on there.
I'm liking these results, honestly. I'll give people a couple more seconds and then I'll stop it and share.
Super. I hope the answer is A, always.
It's not. It's mostly sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, you know what? 72% of you say sometimes. So that's good. And no one said never. So
exactly.
That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you for that information. Okay, so let's talk about the photography. You need to have your projects professionally photographed. We can't stress the importance of that enough. So photos are not only great for media relations, what we're talking about today, but also for your website gallery, social media, your advertising efforts, etc. You can use your every photo asset that you have over and over again. So we really want to stress the value of that. So let's talk tactical about an actual photo shoot. So from the very, very beginning of a project, you need to ensure that the homeowner is on board before anything else is even talked about. Ask them if they would be willing to have their project photographed at the end of the project. Include it in that contract. Make sure that that's very clear in the contract that they are signing that you can photograph that. And we do know that some people will say no, we know that, but open up the conversation from the very beginning, and it's a lot easier to make it happen. Pick the right timing for photography. Always best to do it. This is kind of a no-brainer. Always best to do it upon project completion, so you can style it the way you want it. And it also hasn't been lived in, which can also be difficult once the kitchen is actually, or the bathroom or whatever you're photographing has been lived in. So even in the contract, say, you know, after 2 weeks, in the period 2 weeks after the project completion, we will be photographing. So just lay it all out so everyone knows the expectations and there's no kind of misunderstandings with the homeowner at all. Some dealers have photographers on retainer. They know the importance of forming a relationship with the photographer who knows your style. You can be effective and efficient. We often see when we are seeing assets from dealers that when we're giving the photo credit, for example, on Cabico or Elmwood social media platforms, that they use the same photographer all the time. So building that relationship is really important. And it'll just make everything more efficient and effective as well. So another poll, sorry, I hope you're not getting sick of the polls. How many, we know everyone has their own firm, you're all Cabico or Elmwood dealers. How many interior designers or other design firms who focus more on the design or whole home design, for example, buy exclusively from you or from you? If you could just give us a little indication there, that would be great. And I'll sip. Isn't this fun? So interactive.
I love getting feedback from people.
Yes. Well, specifically for this area, marketing, partnerships, PR, it's so good to know what's happening at the dealer and showroom level, because we're just that little bit removed. So having this kind of feedback is so valuable. 10 to 20. Okay. So some of you have fairly good interior design relationships, and that's always a good way to build your business too, is partnering with more interior design firms. So we just wanted to touch this briefly. It's another great way to share the cost of photography. Most interior design firms or design build firms that might buy your cabinets, or you might even be that yourself. And I do acknowledge that. Most firms photograph their work. So pitch in the cost, for example, in the effort, then you'll have the right to say what you want. You'll be able to have an influence on the shot list itself. You might want a really cool shot of a pullout, for example, that the interior designer is not thinking of. They're looking at more of the overall finish, and there might be things that you can use for your own business. So not only should you align with a design firm for the photography and the photography rights, but you can also align with them for media pitching as well. A team effort and shared costs and resources will always be beneficial. So let's get into the media pitching part of it. And how you go about this. So the first thing is, like anything, when you're about to embark on a new endeavor, is to do your homework. Research local publications. You know what people are reading in your area. You know what magazines and media outlets that you subscribe to. You know what you look at in your area for inspiration. And it's very easy. I'm going to do a little show and tell here if anyone can see me. At the very front of a book, it's called The Masthead of a Magazine. This is a local magazine that I picked, if you can see. We're in Southwestern Ontario, so I picked one from there. And there's always a masthead, if anyone can see, that has all of the editors' names in the masthead. And that's, you pick the names. There's, in this particular one, there is the let me see, editor-in-chief, there's an associate editor, there's a digital editor, and there's up to 8 managing editors. So there's lots of names that you can direct your pitch to. And so look for that and look in your regional publications. And I have to say that your best bet is probably a regional publication to start out with, and start with pitching. You can aim high and, you know, I want to be in House Beautiful, or I want to be in Elle Decor, but we really think that your best bet will be a local or regional publication. And also that way, you know, the people that are reading the publication or reading it online, for example, if it's a digital publication, are from your area. So that's always important. They are your customers. That's where you want the leads from. So there's a big misconception that you would have to, for example, write a very slick press release to get media attention. So don't be intimidated by that press release. You don't need to do a press release for every media pitch. You can literally format it as a paragraph description of the project, tell the story behind the design, if there was a design challenge, did you solve a problem with your design? Was there a unique application, a finish, or some mixing of different materials, for example? Pull out all the things that you find most interesting about the project that you did and just list them. And that's going to be very interesting for the editor on the other end. Oh, here's a firm that solved a family's problem. It looks beautiful. I would like to feature it in my magazine. Here's another hot tip. Always talk about the brands, other brands, non-competitive, that you worked with or that is mentioned or used in the project. For example, mention that the appliance manufacturer, I'm going to do a plug for one of my clients. You have beautiful Fulgor Milano appliances, high-end appliances. Mention that, because the chances are that whoever you mention, if it's, for example, your surfaces, whoever that you mention, they might be an advertiser in that regional publication, and that really perks up the ears of the editor as well. It's like, look at all these great brands that have been used in this project, and yes, we would like to feature it. You don't have to give all your secret sauce away or your sources or anything like that, but always try and be open, especially if it's recognizable. Understand if something is completely custom and you don't want to give away your source or something like that, but always try and list what is in the project. Share previews of the projects, even if it hasn't been professionally photographed yet. Magazines, for example, I'll focus on that for a minute. They work months and months ahead. So even if the project hasn't been photographed yet, take a few iPhone shots and say, this is the flavor. You can see how great this project is going to be and get their interest. And then once the photography is done, they might say, we have a feature on blue cabinetry. We're talking everything blue next February, and we would like to feature this then. So there's no reason that you can't kind of give them a sneak peek before the photography is done. You can always invite the media too, if you're working with a publication, if they want to come in and do their own photography too. And that's an important thing to mention in the contract with the homeowner as well, is saying it could be your photographer and it could be from any media attention that you do get. And because I'm talking, I need another sip of water. Also, show confidence. It's really important when you're talking to an editor at a publication. Don't be afraid to say how great the project is. And don't be afraid to say how great the feedback has been on the project. You can say, oh my goodness, my contractor, he hasn't worked on this style of kitchen. It's so beautiful. We're getting rave reviews from everyone. Brag about the project. If it's a high-end project, brag about it. Say, it was 10 months, or like the install took this amount of time because of the amount of cabinetry in this project. So brag as much as you can and really capture the interest. So just a little slide here, just as a summary. Oops, can you go back, Rach?
Yep.
So just as a summary, tell an interesting story about the project, pull out all the interesting details, talk about a problem that you solved for the homeowner, mention other brands, because potentially they might be an advertiser in the book, and that gets you, publishers really want to make their advertisers happy. So that's another little foot in the door. And right back to the very beginning, do your research on the editors and the publications that you read and that you want to see your projects in. And we can go to another poll. We would love to know if you've ever entered a design contest. Give you a minute. That's an easy one to answer. Yes or no?
Oh, it's 50-50.
We're asking because local and national. Oh, look at that. Wow. Okay. So we have an opportunity to sway 45% of you to enter a design contest. That is perfect. So local and national design contests are a great way to gain media attention and get your name out there, building brand awareness for your company. And the result of brand awareness is obviously increased sales. So there are so many design contests you can enter. I can't stress that enough. Your local, I think there's 72 local NKBA chapters across North America. If you have a local NKBA chapter, hopefully you're members and you can enter the local chapter contest. There's a national contest that you can enter. Brands offer contests as well. Magazines, a lot of local publications do offer a specific design contest. For example, we're going to give an example of Atlanta Home and Design in a minute, but we'll stay with the national ones. Trade magazines like Kitchen and Bath Business, they have a huge awards program. Kitchen and Bath Design News has a huge award program. A couple of regional ones, Gray Magazine, if you're on the West, Canadian Interiors, Western Living, Atlanta Homes Magazine, there are a ton. So there's so many, so you need to look in your own area. And hopefully those magazines that you're attracted to and you read all the time too, you probably follow them on social media, and they will always advertise their design contests. So design contests can be as easy as submitting your project photos, telling your design story. So those amazing design stories that you prepared for pitching the media, use it, maximize it, use it again to enter a design contest. Some of them are as simple as filling out a questionnaire, and the editors of the publications or whoever is running the contest, that's kind of the first level. They might ask you for more information after that. So it can be easy. Some of them are very comprehensive. You do need to have, in most cases, as I said, professional photography. So look at the categories in the contest. Many are, they're done by budget. You can see the Kitchen and Bath Design Awards. They have, and that went down. We just did a screen capture, as you can see, of best kitchen over 225. It goes right down to more value kitchens, smaller kitchens. So there's all different. Think of all the possibilities of all the levels of the budgets and the gold, silver, and bronze. There's many opportunities to win that and enter it. So many are by budget, but there's also interesting categories. For example, best sustainability story. So a very sustainable kitchen that you worked on. Perhaps there's a living in place angle of a kitchen that you worked on. There's usually categories for that. Sometimes it's the best use of technology. So there's, however the magazine, the organization, the association is running the contest, check out the categories, and you might have many different projects that would be applicable for those categories. So we wanted to show you, and many of you might know Lisa Brooks. So she entered a design contest, and she won the 2021 Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles Kitchen of the Year. She did partner with an interior designer, James Wheeler, on this project. This was a no-cost contest. So look at all the exposure she got for very little investment. The only cost was the photography. And when we interviewed her, her advice was enter any design contest that you can possibly kind of get your hands on. She also said, and this is the important part, that after this was published, she received many calls for projects from new clients just from being published in that magazine. Her brand was amplified. She got so much attention on her business for entering this contest. And it was a beautiful, beautiful project. So use those projects that stand out, that have that unique story behind them. Similar to media pitching, as I said, if you've already done the homework on coming up with a story about your project, use it. And yes, what happens when you win a design contest? You get award-winning PR coverage, you get bragging rights, that's got to count for something. You get assets from the publication, and bottom line, you get new clients. So just to recap that part of it, once again, can't stress enough the importance of professional photography. Do your homework on where you would like to see yourself published. Who do you want talking about you? It's as simple as that. Who do you want to be talking about your business? And never underestimate the power of design contests. So that's kind of a little bit about the media relations side. 3 ways to facilitate your media relations, and what you can do tactically to have a media relations strategy. And I think I am turning this over now to my colleague, Rachel, but we are going to start out with a poll.
All right, so we're going to be moving into influencer relations, that part of the discussion today. So our poll, have you ever worked with an influencer before? And some things to keep in mind while you're answering this poll. You may have worked with an influencer and you didn't even know it. So think about things like, have you shared photography opportunities? Did you have a client or a designer that you worked with that shared on their social media platforms? Did you get exposure from anyone you worked with who shared on social media? So believe it or not, all those things are forms of influencer relations. So I see we're about halfway through people answering the poll.
What are the results? I'm on the edge of my
People who
seat.
haven't yet, so this is good.
I was waiting for the sweet spot of like 20 answers, but we'll
Okay.
stop at 19 because Leanne's anxious. So there's honestly more yeses than I expected, although maybe some people changed what they were going to answer as they were listening to you, Rach.
Okay.
Well, this is good. Hopefully a lot of the no's will have some expertise and some tips to start that. So just like Leanne did, I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So our three kind of things are influencer marketing leads to real results. So we'll go through that. Do your research on finding local influencers to partner with and be clear about your expectations. So we'll dive into each one of these things and hopefully you'll get some great takeaways. So first I want to just define what an influencer is. An influencer is simply someone who influences others. So they have the power to affect purchasing decisions of their audience. A lot of times you'll notice that influencers have a distinct niche. So whether that's, food and recipes or fitness, or in our case, home design. So a lot of them will focus kind of on one area and become kind of an expert and an influencer in that area. There are different levels when it comes to influencers on social media, and I'll go through these. And just like anything, influencers have their specialties. So some may be big on Instagram, while others may be massive on TikTok and more in that space. So it really just depends. So just on the slide here, we have a pyramid just to define different levels of influencers. So I'll give you some examples of these too in a minute, but just for the pyramid here. So starting at the bottom, we have nano influencers. So those are influencers who have under 10,000 followers. The next level is a micro influencer, which is 10,000 to 100,000 followers. Next up from there is macro influencer, and those are 100,000 to 1 million followers. And then lastly, at the top of the pyramid is mega influencers. So those are the people with over 1 million followers, kind of more that celebrity level. So just a few examples for you all, just so you can kind of visualize these different tiers. So on the left here, starting at the bottom again with a nano influencer. This is a designer, Allison Habermail, and she is from Habermail Design Group. So you can see she has 3,000 Instagram followers. So she falls right into that nano level, but she's a great influencer. She has tons of great engagement. Her audience is really tuned in. So we'll kind of go through each level and what the benefits are. Same thing goes for a micro influencer on the right-hand side, Sabrina Smolko there. So she's at 16.5 thousand followers. And we actually partnered with her for an Elmwood partnership a couple years ago. And one thing you'll notice too is a lot of the design influencers, interior designers, and lifestyle influencers will fall into that micro category. Next here on the left-hand side, Sarah Robertson of Studio Dearborn. She's a macro level influencer, so 203,000 followers. You might remember her from our webinar earlier this year. So she took us through some social media tips. As you can see, her social media is constantly growing. And yeah, so that's a good example of macro. And then on the right-hand side here is Kelly Wursler. So she's at 1.9 million followers. She's our mega influencer. There's other people like Nate Berkus and things like that. Again, that celebrity level of influencer. So we're just going to take you through kind of how to decide what level of influencer to work with. So working with those macro and mega influencers isn't always the best option, especially for a small business. The budgets for these campaigns are always sizable, very large budgets. So obviously may not be as realistic for a limited budget and a smaller business. And even some influencers at that micro level, so between 10K and 100K, can be pretty pricey. So you definitely have to choose wisely. And we'll kind of go through that in a little more detail as well. And one thing too to note about smaller influencers, so the nanos and the micros like the Allison Habermale and Sabrina Smelko, they're more affordable and they oftentimes have a higher engagement rate. So their audience is smaller. A lot of times it's more localized. So people who actually know them, friends and family, and their audience just kind of grows slowly from there. So their audience is more engaged with their content and obviously then more likely to buy into whatever they're sharing, whatever brand or company they're promoting. So even if you don't have a huge budget to work with someone like a Kelly Worsler, working with those nano and micro influencers can still have a lot of impact for your business. And like we said, so the smaller the audience, generally, the more affordable a campaign will be. And on the screen here, this is the project we did with Sabrina Smelko and Thomas and Birch. So we worked with Sabrina, micro influencer, on her Elmwood kitchen. It was a chalet renovation in Whistler, BC. So this was a kind of a bigger campaign where we renovated an entire kitchen. But it doesn't always have to be that big, but you can see how something like this can have such an impact. So in our agreement with her, we had video content, we had final photography and access to use all of her assets, social posts, so Instagram posts, Instagram stories. We did a live Instagram video with a Q&A with her, blog posts showing the project progress. It also led to interview coverage. We had a broadcast hit. We also had a few magazine opportunities as a result of this project. So you can kind of just see how doing a big influencer campaign can lead to a ton of business and a ton of assets and things like that for your business. So now that we've talked about kind of what an influencer is and what the different levels are, I just want to go over why it matters for your business. So influencer marketing can lead to real business results. The three things we have here are credibility, brand awareness, and access to new audiences. So working with an influencer is, it builds credibility, having someone other than your brand or yourself promote your business. So people who follow influencers trust what they have to say, and they trust the brands or the companies that they promote. There's nothing like a third-party testimonial to build your reputation. You can kind of compare it to a Google review for a restaurant, for example. That third-party testimonial is really important. They also build brand awareness, so getting your name out there. And then they also give you access to a new audience. So working with an influencer, you have access to their entire audience. You get to connect with a new specific consumer base. Again, if it's a nano or micro influencer, most likely you're accessing a localized audience. And you can kind of consider it a form of local advertising. And influencers know more about your audience than you do. So that kind of connection and relationship is really important. So another poll, Jess, if you want to launch the next one, are you aware of any local influencers in your region? Doesn't have to be a design influencer, but lifestyle influencer, a DIYer, anything that you've kind of seen in your city, in your state, things like that.
Yeah, when a lifestyle influencer does their own kitchen, they cover it extensively.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. So 47% of you have worked with a local or are aware, sorry, of a local influencer in your region, and 53% are not. So this is good. We'll go through kind of some ways to find those local influencers. And if you do know some, there's ways to find more. So it can be as easy as scanning your social media following. So assuming that your brand and your company or yourself is on social media, look at who you're following and who's following you. You may already be following influencers, and you may have some local influencers that follow you. So take a look at that and see if you can find any there. Another easy way to find influencers is doing a local hashtag search. So you can see on the right-hand side there, Madeline Slovak is a designer from Vancouver, BC. Madeline Design Group is her firm. So you can see in this post, and you'll notice with a lot of her posts, if you look at her Instagram, she uses hashtags that are local, like interior design Vancouver, Vancouver real estate, Vancouver homes, things like that. So you can actually just go on Instagram and search hashtags for whatever area you're in. So whether you're in New Jersey, hashtag New Jersey design, hashtag New Jersey designer, New Jersey homes, things like that, and look for the top posts and then the recent posts. You can kind of scan through and find people that way. Another easy way to find influencers is just a simple Google search. So if you're like Madeline Slovak, you're in Vancouver, BC, you know, best Vancouver interior designers or best lifestyle influencers in Vancouver, things like that. You can get some good lists on just a simple Google search as well. So once you've found some influencers, you find people that you think you may want to work with, how to approach them. So get on their radar, follow them, like their posts, engage with their content is a really good way to just kind of get your name out there. All of their contact information will most likely be in their Instagram bio. And if not, you can find it on their website. So they're very easy to find their contact information, email, phone number, whatever it is, because they also want to work with brands and companies. They're always looking for new people to partner with. So you can usually very easily find their contact information. You can email them or even send them a DM, introduce yourself, ask questions about their platform and their audience, you know, see if they can share their audience demographics if you're looking for more of a localized audience and you want to reach more people in your city, for example, and ensure it's a fit for both parties. So make sure that they have some vested interest in design, or, you know, if you're looking for a DIY influencer, things like that, just make sure it's a fit for both parties. You can also ask them for a media kit or a rate card. So a media kit is something that most influencers have on hand that details kind of more about them, who they are, what their audience is like, you know, male, female, where they're located, things like that, can be really good to know before you decide to work with somebody, for sure. And you can also ask them for a rate card or an idea of pricing. If you, you know, want to do some Instagram posts or things like that, you can just ask them how much they would charge for that. They're very open. And like I said, they also want to work with you. So don't be afraid to ask them and just get the conversation started that way. And then in terms of the level of partnership or the size of the campaign, it doesn't need to be a full project like like the Sabrina Smelko example. Obviously, those are very cost prohibitive. It can be something as simple as inviting them to your showroom if you're having an event, or if you just want to invite them to check out the storage solutions. For example, a DIY influencer might be very interested in the Cabico or Elmwood storage solutions that you have in your showroom. The example we have on the screen here is from the Woodstock Home Design Center. They won our last Hello Cabico contest. So we went in ourselves and we took a bunch of content. We took pictures, videos, and we turned it into an Instagram reel. So it can be as simple as inviting someone in to your showroom and getting them to film some Instagram stories. That can kind of be a good way to dip your toes into the water before you go into a full, you know, renovation with someone or a discounted renovation. For example, too, the Cabico and Elmwood, the new 2022 paint colors, you could invite someone in to check out those paint colors, a local designer or someone, do a little meet and greet, have them share their vision on the new colors, give a little testimonial what they think about them. So just kind of be creative with the different ways if you don't have a lot of budget to spare to do a full project with them. And then you can also consider discounts. So if someone is a nano influencer or a micro influencer with good reach, they may decide on an Elmwood or Cabico kitchen for a 20% discount, for example. So, and you can kind of compare that to what an advertising campaign would be price-wise. So how much would that cost if you had to pay for it outright? Well, now you're having an influencer do that for you. And a lot can be done with a discount. And another thing too is if you're already working with interior designer, I know some of you said that you are, be sure to ask them to tag you in their social media posts if they're featuring the project. Do a Q&A with them, ask for a testimonial, just make sure you're maximizing all of the deliverables in having the content that they share, make sure you're tagged in that. And on that note too, when you do decide to work with an influencer, you want to make sure you have an agreement in place with them. So an influencer agreement doesn't have to be extensive. It doesn't have to be, super formal, just a document that kind of outlines the deliverables. And if it's a discount or payment or a project comp, whatever it is, a document that both you and the influencer review and are good with and sign, just so you can be very clear on what you want. For example, when you're outlining your deliverables, if you're big on Instagram, make sure that you have some Instagram posts and stories included in the contract if you want that to be the focus. If there's an event that you're having that you want the influencer to come in and film some stories or do an Instagram live or things like that, just make sure it's all outlined in that contract. If you want them to tag you in their posts, all of that can be outlined in that document. So like I said, it doesn't have to be an extensive document. You can find examples online, but just something that you have in writing between you and the influencer.
Rach, while we're still on this slide, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Woodstock girls because they're on this webinar too.
Oh,
awesome. Okay, so just to recap all of that, influencer marketing leads to real business results. So that credibility, that brand awareness, access to new audiences. Do your research. It's not that hard to find local influencers in your area on Instagram or wherever you're looking, and be clear about your expectations. So outline the agreement and make sure that both parties are on board and know what's expected of them. Okay, so now we are going to head into Q&A. I don't know if Jess has any questions already queued up, but send them in.
I do have a question already from the chat. My friend Stu Dettelbach would like to know if you could talk a little bit about the prices that influencers charge. Obviously, it varies from influencer to influencer, but just kind of give a ballpark or a few examples, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. So it's hard to give examples because they do vary. Trying to think, like if you have a partnership with someone with just some social media posts, influencers could charge anywhere from a few $100s to a few $1,000s. So like we said, it's really important to chat with them about their rates before you partner with them, and just get an idea. You don't have, just because you reach out to someone doesn't mean you have to partner with them. But we're finding right now it's getting more and more expensive. If you think about these influencers, a lot of them, it's their livelihood, it's their business. So they are charging some money, but like we said too, there's different levels of things you can do with them, and you can kind of get creative with that. Things like an Instagram story or a story series will be cheaper than an Instagram reel where they have to create a full video, things like that. But it really does vary depending on the size.
And honestly, the power of a discount, if you know someone is coming into your showroom and they have a big Instagram following, for example, or you've heard of them and they have like crazy amount of people on TikTok, for example, maybe there's some, small barter for a discount that they would want to do in order to cover you on social media. And I would think a local influencer, like for example, when Rachel said, we don't want to scare people that you have to do a full kitchen renovation with these people all the time, but to have them come in and comment on like new colors and stuff like that, it could be very reasonable. Mm-hmm. They could charge you literally like, less than $500 to cover. And that way they might have 10,000 Instagram followers. You're getting that message out there for the price of that. you're getting that out there. Word of warning though, because things are getting a little bit more expensive and influencers are actually, it's now a career.
Mhm.
I am going to say some of them are ridiculous. It's like, okay, you are not Kim Kardashian. So this is not really a fair price. So don't be afraid to negotiate. You'll be amazed at how much you can bring the price down if you tell them what your budget, or what you're willing to do with your budget.
Yeah, and reach out to a few. If you know you want to partner with one or two, reach out to a handful, get their rates and see, kind of compare them, right? Like that's a good way to kind of weed out the ones that are charging way more than they should be. So just kind of use your best judgment with that.
In the chat, Bob from our Cabico boutique in Edmonton from Gem Cabinets just said sometimes you can barter. So if they need maybe a vanity or some other cabinets, you can trade and just save the markup as well. So yeah, exactly. Get creative.
Yeah. What can you offer them? What do they want from you, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at what you can negotiate.
Any other questions that anybody had?
Anything on media relations too?
Yeah, media relations, or any examples of partnerships that you have done, or maybe that some people are working on?
Or if you want to share, if you've had success of getting a project covered in the media, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody, if you want to unmute yourself and talk to us, I'd love that.
I'm seeing a note there.
Yeah, Anna from Granite State said we do a lot of in-person PR where influencers will do demos or utilize our showroom. Yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah, exactly.
All kinds of partnerships, not just products, but also services.
Yeah. And is there anyone that was surprised by the fact that, just inviting them into a special event or something like that is actually influencer relationships? Because sometimes you don't even think about that. You think about, forms of advertising that might be a little bit more expensive. So just kind of opening up your ideas about getting creative and how to work with influencers.
Elena is asking, besides Instagram, what other social media platforms do influencers use to connect with their audience?
TikTok is really gaining. Yeah, exactly.
Sarah Robertson, the designer that we had on earlier, if anybody was on that webinar, she's getting really big on TikTok. So, and it's moving a lot towards video too. So you'll see that on Instagram too. People doing more reels and kind of short videos, walkthroughs of a kitchen, or, 5 storage solutions in this kitchen, things like that. So TikTok and Instagram, I would say, are the big ones for sure.
Yeah, and as Rachel said, every influencer has kind of their own specialty. Like we work with someone here for another client that she actually is the moderator or the owner of a private Facebook group that has over 4,000 designers in that Facebook group, and we're working with her. So everything that she shares it on Instagram, but the power of that partnership is actually when she talks about it in that Facebook group. So depending on the different strengths of what they are doing and how they are presenting themselves on social, where they have the most success, it can really vary. Not a lot of design influencers on Twitter, I will say that.
No. Elaine is also asking, should we be prioritizing video over photos now? This is a great question and something that we have been talking about a lot lately.
Definitely. The answer is definitely. Especially on Instagram, like I said, there's a lot of focus towards reels now. You'll notice if you're scrolling your own feed, a lot of it is video. And we've been with Cabico and Elmwood trying to introduce more reels. It doesn't have to be anything super high tech or super, edited. It can just be, like I said, a tour of a showroom or little video snippets that you took showcasing some storage solutions and putting them into an Instagram reel right on the app. It's not super difficult, but yeah, definitely if you're wanting to reach more people, you're going to reach them with videos on Instagram and obviously on TikTok as well. So as much as you can, we would say try to introduce video content.
A good
How
example
many-
of that is the Woodstock Design Center. We went in and
That's
just
what I was
shot a
gonna
little bit of video and turned it into a really great reel. So,
And I think we got over 6,000 views on that reel. So people love seeing storage solutions and beautiful designs and interesting things about a project. So just film videos on your phone and yeah, make it into a reel on the Instagram app. It's not super hard.
And don't be intimidated by that. I'm the oldest person at my agency, obviously, and I think my team gets scared when I'm the one that's shooting something, but I think I did a good job on that one, right, Rach?
You
did a great job.
You did a great job, Leanne.
Like, don't let Leanne do it. But if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Any other questions that anybody had? Or examples that you wanted to share?
And I will throw this out, if anyone has a really great project that they are working on that they feel like they would like to pitch to the media and you want a little bit of advice, that will really help the Cabico or Elmwood PR efforts as well. So let us know if there's something that you're working on and you need a little support on that, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. You
we're
guys
here to help.
can contact me. Some of you might already have been in contact with Rach and Leanne for various things when we were doing IG takeovers last year and things like that. But yeah, just definitely let us know and we'll be happy to guide you through that and give you some tips. I did just drop a quick survey in the chat aside from all of the polls that we asked you guys to do. And it's our typical webinar survey. We want to know what you thought of this, what your key takeaways were, and what kind of topics you would like to see from us in the future. Specifically, right now we would be looking for like topics in terms of social media and PR in general, topics that Flying Camel are experts on, that we can partner with them on, because we're trying to do kind of a webinar a quarter with our Flying Camel partners. So you guys let us know what you want from us, and we'll go from there. Robert just asked what our planned future webinars. TBD, Robert.
But we're also
We're
willing to do a
working
deep
on it.
dive. We mentioned when we did the social media webinars too, we had all different levels of social media savvy. And if there's enough people that want to know about social media advertising, for example, you know, running campaigns on Meta, we've got in-house expertise on that. So just let us know what you want to drive your business forward and we can tailor it accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I hope this was enjoyable and educational for you. Hope you guys got some good takeaways about PRs and pitches and influencer partnerships and things like that. So maybe it's a little bit less intimidating than it was before today. And keep an eye out for future webinars and we'll see you then. Thanks,
Thank you,
Rach. Thanks,
everybody.
Leanne.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.